Okay, so we're about ready to begin the Q&A session. And just as a reminder, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask our panelists, please use the chat feature in Zoom. And while Jason's bringing in everyone for the panel, we'll go ahead and save some time and start with some brief introductions and bios on today's panelists. Joining us today are Michelle Anderson, President and CEO at Ahtna Incorporated, McHugh Pierre, President and CEO at Goldbelt Incorporated, James Wileman, President and CEO at Credit Union One, and Richard Glenn, Executive Vice President, External Affairs with ASRC. Our time is limited for the Q&A to a half hour, but we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. Our first panelist is Michelle Anderson, who joined Ahtna in 2011 and has deep connections to the corporation as a shareholder and someone who grew up in the region. Michelle graduated from Glen Allen High School, holds a BA in political science from UAA and a master's degree in rural development from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. When she's not working, she is personally interested in learning more about the Ahtna region, such as clan histories and traditional stories, as well as Alaska Native political history and genealogy. As President and CEO of Goldbelt Incorporated, McHugh Pierre is responsible for managing Goldbelt's Juneau-based business, including its tourism, land, and real estate entities. McHugh began his career at Goldbelt in 2015 as Vice President of Alaska Operations. McHugh is also a fellow UAA graduate, earning a BA in journalism and public communications. Richard Glenn is uniquely qualified to serve as Executive Vice President of External Affairs for ASRC after having spent nearly 2 decades on the board of directors and serving as Executive Vice President of Lands and Natural Resources at the company. In his current role, Richard uses his expertise in Arctic resource development and onshore and offshore Arctic geologic processes to manage government affairs and corporate communications for ASRC. ASRC recently experienced a significant loss with the passing of Jacob Adams Sr. Jacob was a North Slope leader, whaling captain, and served as CEO of ASRC for 23 years. So on behalf of everyone at Alaska Business, we want to extend our sincere condolences to the ASRC family on Jacob's passing. And our final panelist, President and CEO James Wileman, has a long history with Credit Union One. He first joined the company in 2010 as manager of the Mountain View branch, and over the years worked his way up through the ranks until in 2014, he joined the senior management team. He continued his career-long practice of developing and implementing short and long-term credit union goals, which paid off with a succession of promotions, including Vice President of Member and Administrative Services, Senior Vice President of Operations, and Chief Operating Officer. So now let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A. Let's see here. So the first question that I saw come through for the panel, and I'll just ask this to anybody that wants to step in and answer it. It says, this is from Russ. Russ, hey, how's it going? It says, with the onset and spread of COVID, how did you handle the transition to ensure the safety of your employees while continuing business operations? So, McHugh, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Charles. Thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the invite to be on the panel with such esteemed guests. It's great to see everyone and congratulations on a successful year. It's been difficult facing the pandemic, and we are primarily a staffing company. We have employees around the country and in many places around the globe, and if they're not healthy and happy, they can't be productive. So we immediately went into protective measures to make sure that our employees were safe. They had the products and the capability to work remotely. And as we started to have a better understanding of the impact of the virus, we began to slowly open up our offices and be respectful of people's commitments. There's no daycare in a lot of places. There's no school. So if you want to have successful employees, you have to be respectful of their family. And we've been able to balance all of that. And we're having an even better year in 2020 than we did in 2019. So we're very thankful for that.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. And McHugh, did you not get the memo? You're supposed to be home in your pajama pants and basically working out of the home office?
You're lucky I'm here at all, Jason. It's sunny in Juneau. This is one of the rainiest summers on record. You can see the sun shining through my windows. I almost stopped the call.
It's sunny in Juneau. Everybody outside, quick. Awesome. Great answer. Thank you.
James, you want to jump in on that one too?
Yeah, sure. And shout out to McHugh as a UAS graduate and someone who grew up in Sitka. I'm surprised you're there. Not gonna lie. So appreciate you being on the panel and good to see everybody. And for us, it was almost the same. You know, we, from a social distancing standpoint, closed our lobbies before it was recommended. We weren't mandated to do that, but for the health and safety of our employees and our members, we did it. We went from about 30 remote employees to 180 in what felt like overnight, but really took a couple of weeks to get equipment, get folks out, get them set up to work from home, do it safely, and to the point previously made, help take care of their families, because all of a sudden some of our employees also became teachers overnight to help their children and help their schools continue. So it was difficult, but we had a really strong focus on doing the best thing we could for our employees, while also making sure that we could still serve our 85,000 members who rely on the credit union for their financial service. And I'm proud to say that with the work and effort of the staff, we did it. And we've got through it, so to speak, the 6th month of March, and we're still doing it today, just like a lot of other Alaskan businesses, and found some ways to help along the way. So it's humbling to see everybody's effort come together, around the state, so to speak, and certainly here inside Credit Union One.
Michelle, I want to pivot that question just a little bit. Obviously, COVID's had a huge impact on business this year. From your perspective, what impact has it had on your business for 2020, and how has it impacted how your organization will operate moving forward when we eventually emerge from the pandemic?
Oh, you're on mute.
I was muted, trying to tell Michelle she was muted.
Yeah.
Okay,
go.
sorry about that.
Perfect. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. I just wanted to say that our subsidiary management, subsidiary presidents and staff, everyone realized, how different of a year this was going to be, and trying to be quick to make sure our employees felt safe. Fortunately, our business operations remained consistent throughout the year. Staff worked with their employees that had families at home and just tried to, balance everything. It really was a year of balancing many different needs. I must say, this is the first year I've never heard a need for additional office space. That seems to be a need of ours every year. So it really forced us to do business in a different way. And I think it's going to affect how we do things going forward when we realize what we could do this year. And I think that could be said for everyone. So we were very fortunate. We have fantastic staff, and they carried the day.
Yeah, I think that's so important. The value of our employees is so critical. And coming out of this, the real estate market is going to be really interesting to watch as everybody returns to business.
Yeah, for sure.
Richard, I see that you're there on audio. Is there anything that you can add for that?
No, I think that our response to this pandemic has been similar to those who have already spoken. I credit the leadership of our human resources team to make sure that first our employees were safe, and a really extraordinary push on their part to use all the tools in our toolbox to keep the lights on business-wise, yet while respecting the safety and health of our employees. And for Alaska, the pandemic represented a train wreck, basically, that that moved at the speed of the calendar. So it was a slow motion calamity. And we're still learning about it. We're still responding to it, and we're still adjusting to it. And I credit the stability of our leadership for our ability to continue in its wake.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. Jason, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, I'd love to. And Richard, that really is a great visualization. I mean, the slow motion calamity, how it has been happening seemingly so quickly on a day-to-day basis. But, when you look back and James said it earlier, I think you said we're in the sixth March. So yeah, just back-to-back marches since this whole thing has started. Next question, if we could. This is one of the most, and this is from Leah, also over in the chat. And just a reminder, everybody, please put your questions there in the chat so we can get them asked and answered. One of the most challenging times in Alaska's economic history. What do you see as some of the biggest opportunities and any bright spots for Alaska going into 2021? No bright spots. Okay, we'll move on. So take a second. Yeah, just think about the question because obviously there are opportunities and every business has some opportunities moving into 2021. So has anybody got anything that they're eager to share with the world as to what you're doing with your own business there and what's coming up for you guys that you're hopeful for 2021?
I'd be happy to share something, Jason. Yeah.
Besides sunshine and Juneau.
Keep the continuing order going. It's really exciting to see mineral prices so strong. And I know that impacts many of us in a lot of different ways. And it provides, steady family supporting careers. And so it's great to see those developments continuing, those prices strong to support all the outside business that goes along with a mine or exploration of that. So it's nice to see in Southeast, and I'm sure there's many other projects in the rest of Alaska that are making a strong impact on our communities.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, for us, we see it, the only way we can see it is as the opportunity that it presents. There is definitely risk, there are definitely hard times, but we had to pivot in how we delivered service to our members. So we iterated, for example, the ability for members to schedule appointments and meet with loan officers or account representatives over Zoom. And that allowed them to get the services and the questions and the answers and the lending that they needed while still, maintaining safety for our staff and for our members. Things like that, where it's not something we would have necessarily looked to do in the regular course of business, especially when you consider, the physical presence of branch. And for delivering service, financial or otherwise, there's always this balance of, I call it bricks over bytes. So you can deliver services electronically, you can deliver them in person, and you need to do both. And the pandemic for us showed us that our staff are fully capable and our members are able to receive those services electronically. And so, for example, if you think about your daily life now, where maybe you left on your lunch hour, drove, to a financial facility for 15 minutes, then waited in the lobby hoping to get helped, then had to hurry back to work, or maybe even you were late. Now we've discovered a way to do that where you don't lose that time, so to speak, or you don't have that time to lose because you might be busy running your own business or doing your own job and a lot of other things. And so I think it speaks to, I think Richard said earlier, Alaskans, it hit us like that slow train wreck. But for us, it also presented an opportunity to figure out some ways to do what we needed to do and deliver what was expected of us by our members and do it in a different way. And going forward, we're going to continue to platform those, iterate those, and make them better. And I'm pretty excited for that because as you see other sectors, like you mentioned, mineral prices being solid, there being some development and things like that, it's going to take all of the things that Alaska does to make it successful to keep going forward to make that happen. We're all in it together. So pretty excited to see that, hear about some of those, and do the parts that we can play and do our part to make it happen.
That's awesome. Michelle, anything from Ahtna that you guys are looking forward to in 2021?
Yes, I wanted to mention that pandemic aside, this state has been trying to find its way through a pretty dark time economically. And I know that, as others have said, this presents opportunity as well for those of us that have the capacity and interest in trying to work with state and federal partners. Our subsidiary companies have, a whole list of specialties that they do, one of them being construction. I think that we could deliver state services more efficiently and maybe even more cheaper than they're currently being provided. So trying to find new ways of doing things in rural Alaska especially. So construction is one, road maintenance, assisting with trespass control and things of that nature, but just, where are those opportunities to partner? We work really closely with the Denali National Park and the Wrangell St. Elias Park and Preserve. So I know that there are ways that we can work together and do so in a non-threatening way. So we should work to find where those opportunities exist.
Outstanding, thanks. And Richard, same question. Are there things that you're looking forward to in 2021? Are there things Arctic Slope Regional Corporation has coming up that you can talk about for 2021?
I think it was a blessing for our region that before the pandemic hit, that we adopted a real aggressive diversification strategy geographically and in business sectors. And we're still here because of that. Had it not been for that, you would have seen us lag or stagger. And I credit this has been a guiding principle of ours for many years, but we took extraordinary steps in the last 5 years to adopt a strategic plan that said, diversify, don't lean on just one sector, don't lean on just one area. And because of that, we're able to keep ourselves stable and growing. And so what do we don't look upon 2021 as new and exciting. We look upon it as another step in that same direction, which is for not growth for growth's sake, but a disciplined approach to acquisitions that continue to diversify us.
Yeah, that's very insightful. Thank you, Richard. We got a question from Pearl Grace. She asks, how much of the revenue made from your company is put back into the Alaska economy via charities and essential services, food, water, and housing? And I know for the Native corporations, you guys are also very active in your communities and with charitable giving and different endeavors. So McHugh, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that a high percentage is reinvested and committed back to the community of Juneau and to our shareholder base, which is around Southeast and even in South Central. We have 3,900 shareholders and most of them live in Juneau. So we have a very strong commitment to making sure that we invest in improving their lives and improving the community and looking to see how we can advocate to provide more opportunities. One thing that's important, the pandemic has been a blessing and a curse. We've seen opportunities grow in other places and other industries where we work, but it's been extremely devastating to tourism. So now more than ever, making sure that we have the opportunity to support those people in our home where we can care for them and redeploy our assets to make sure that they're doing okay and work with our fellow businesses and tribal governments in the community. It's our obligation to do that, and we're looking to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. James, do you want to add from Credit
Yeah.
Union's perspective?
As a not-for-profit financial cooperative, we exist to serve our members and better their financial lives. So we look to provide excellent loan rates, for example, excellent savings and deposit rates as much as we can. From a community standpoint, in 2019, we actually had one of our biggest years of volunteer hours by staff, over 6,000 hours. And partnering with our members, we have monthly events where we raise funds for nonprofits around Alaska. And we also, for our remote branches outside of Anchorage, including Eagle River, would host member appreciation days where we could raise funds and the credit union would look to match those. We did about all in about $160,000 towards nonprofits last year, which was again a really fantastic year. This year has presented some different challenges for us, but we're still trying to support those nonprofits in need, especially with volunteer hours where it's feasibly possible to do it safely, and then also financially, of course, as well. And it's just finding those different ways to do the same things we've always done, be there for folks. You know, a lot of our income and revenue gets pushed back into the business to make it better for our members. And, you know, that includes reaching out, you know, establishing the branch that I had the opportunity to run back in 2010 in Mountain View, where there hadn't been banking services in over 23 years, to specifically what we like to say is meeting members where they're at financially and doing so without judgment. So across credit tiers, across socioeconomic boundaries, and providing those services. And a lot of our effort goes back into that. You know, this past year we did the AK Cares program, partnering with Ahtna and with DCCD in the state of Alaska to get funds out to businesses. Had some good success doing that, because our philosophy and our belief is we need to help all the communities we work in, because as Alaska goes, so goes Credit Union One. So every time we find opportunities to partner with nonprofits or other organizations, we consider them and take them seriously and do what we can to help make that difference. And we'll keep doing it even in these different times.
I know all four of you guys, the organizations that you work for, are so involved in the communities, and it's so important, I think, that the companies that are able to do give back to the communities. So Michelle, from Ahtna's perspective, is there anything that you'd like to say on that?
Yeah, we believe in the concept of giving back as well. So our employees are encouraged to volunteer here in Anchorage, but also to back in the region. We also have a contributions committee that will go through requests that we get on a quarterly basis, and and fund those that meet our criteria. In terms of reinvesting back into the region, our board established a shareholder employment and training program. So we put about $1 million into getting our shareholders trained and ready for work, and hopefully work here in Alaska. So we're very pro Alaska Hire and interested in getting our shareholders employed wherever they want to be. Of course, most want to be back in the region. Our opportunities are limited there, but it's just gives us some incentive to find ways to make things start happening there in the region. I'm pleased to hear the references to tourism, because I believe that is a really undeveloped sector here in Alaska. And I see all those cars pass through Glen Ellen, and I'm thinking that, it's opportunity that is leaving us. So anyway, I would like to see a more robust tourism program. But anyway, like I said, just wrapping it up, we do believe in giving back, and we believe in taking care of our shareholders and making sure they're ready for employment opportunities.
I want to ask the same question to Richard, but before I do, Michelle, you mentioned tourism. Is that something that Ahtna is looking to get more into?
When I came back to Ahtna in 2005, absolutely. We commissioned a tourism study with the McDowell Group. I might be biased, but I think we live in one of the most beautiful regions in the States. And if visitors are coming into Alaska, they're going through our region to get everywhere else they're going to go. So of course, we've got the Denali Park on one side of the region and the Wrangell St. Elias Park on the other side. And I believe with all my heart that we certainly are in need of a really strong statewide tourism development plan, but also too one that pulls on the regions, on the people that live in those regions. We are the state's, to me, most untapped resource when it comes to inviting visitors and giving them a reason to make us a destination. So anyway, I have lots of thoughts about tourism, and we are exploring opportunities on both sides of the region. And that's all I want to say right now.
Thank you very much for expanding on that and putting you on the spot. Richard, back to the charitable giving and giving back to the communities. What, from ASRC's perspective, can you speak to that?
First of all, I'd like to say I agree with Michelle. Having driven the Denali Highway and that stretch from Delta Junction to Paxson this year several times. I love that. I love that part of the world, and I would really benefit, and I think we all would, if there was only someone who knew the land in the same way that we know our region, to sit by your shoulder as you drove through that stretch. It would illuminate and amplify this connection that we all share as Native corporations to our lands. And I applaud and respect Michelle for continually making others aware of the importance of our land, importance of Ahtna's land to Ahtna's people. It's something that can't be overstated. So thank you for that, Michelle. Now, what was your question? Charitable giving?
Back to ASRC and the charitable giving and just your involvement with, how much does ASRC give back in terms of charitable giving and back to the communities?
So in the past 3 years, I think in the past 3 years alone, I know ASRC has contributed more than $20 million to charitable organizations. And above and beyond that, and these organizations are things like education foundations, community foundations, things that help spur and sponsor either economic development or cultural growth and expression, and right down to, as one of our panelists said earlier, respecting the places where we do business and helping the places where we do business. So that's kind of our mantra. And in addition to that, we, like much of the other for-profit Native corporations, we have an obligation to our own shareholders, and we give on the order of 35% of our net income every year directly to our shareholders as dividends. And that's theirs. This is their corporation, and we've defined that number as one that helps us grow and continues to help the shareholders with increasing dividends year after year. And then, there's a peculiar rule about ANCSA that says we should share also the resource development wealth from one region with all the other regions. And we continue to do that. And that helps everybody around the state, thanks to the resource development in our region. So, on many fronts that we continue to be active in giving back, and no better role model in giving back than, as you recognized earlier, than our leader, mentor, and recently deceased friend, relative, uncle, Jake Adams, set the tone for this kind of living and this kind of discipline in managing the corporation and responsibility back to the people.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, very insightful.
Richard and Michelle, both, thank you. I think you both said very eloquently how important it is, and not just for Native organizations to embrace the region, but for all of us to embrace the state. I mean, because we are one community, and that's not to get on the 49ers bandwagon or toot our own horn, but that's really what this is about. This is about celebrating the businesses that are giving back and celebrating the businesses that are here and contributing so much to Alaska, our people, and our economy. So thank you all for being part of this panel for us. We've still got a few more minutes, and I want to make sure if you've got questions, be sure to post them in the chat. And when you're doing so, be sure down at the bottom, it says to all panelists and attendees, just be sure that you've got that checked so that we're able to see them in both fronts. And some of our panelists have been answering questions there. Richard, just recently you answered a question very eloquently as well in the chat. That just went to the panelists. I'm going to copy and paste that out to the lobby so everybody in the chat is able to see that. We had a question from Matthew that kind of touches on the same idea of community. As Alaskans, we pride ourselves on being resilient in tough times. Can you share an example of what your communities are doing to help each other through this and to get through this together? We could put McHugh on spot. Oh, great, Michelle, go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that starting back in April, our tribes and our tribal health organizations, Ahtna Incorporated, Chittenden Native Corporation, we started meeting once a week and listening to one another's experiences about how they were getting through this pandemic, and what were their needs, where were they having successes, and we could listen and hear them troubleshooting issues that one village or tribe was having, and then another one was able to help out. So it really pointed out where we were strong, and also too the strong need to get prepared for this coming winter, which to me, I mean, those are cultural values that are taught from us, and I'm sure we're not the only ones, from a very young age, just working together, sharing information, trying to make sure that we all get through this together. So I am very proud of our region and how we just pulled together. Everyone hunkered down, and people took seriously this, we have to be safe for one another, and we need to take care of one another. Checking on people that were sick, instead of being afraid to go in and help them. I mean, those are Athabascan, all of our Alaska Native values incorporate those sorts of ideals, just as well as being an Alaskan. We all need one another to get through this. So on a very focused scale, I would say that our region pulled together, and it just was a beautiful thing to watch. It is still going.
Awesome, thank you. Can anybody else step in on that question? What your communities are doing to help each other through the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. We have consider credit union one a family. Certainly the employees, and one of the things for us this year, as we went into this year, we recommitted ourselves to helping where others can't or won't. And when the opportunity came for PPP, it was something we considered doing, but a lot of other institutions were doing that. And so in partnering with the state, helping get the CARES funds that the state got out to some of the businesses in need, a lot of tourism businesses, a lot of fishermen are hurting, obviously, restaurants, things of that nature. And while, we're certainly, I'm envious of, the long history that you have in your regions in putting together all that you've done. We felt it was our duty to help where we could as well. And what really impressed me about it, again, was our employees. We kind of turned our business upside down to start processing a lot of those grant applications. So we had to take other folks who normally didn't do, for example, lending, and they started doing lending all the time. While a lot of our lending folks process those applications because we needed that expertise to review the expenses and things like that. And, I'm proud to say that, well, maybe not as fast as initially anticipated, Credit Union One was able to get help out to about 1,600 businesses so far. We're still doing it. Kind of like Michelle said, we're still working on it, still doing it every day. And about $60 million out of those CARES funds so far. And there are other groups that are helping through ADA and DCCD, and also in Southeast with Juneau Economic Development Corporation. Brian and the group are working on that down there as well. So I see it as the community of Alaskans. One of our terms is being Alaskan at heart. And so that means all of us all together doing everything we can to help make Alaska succeed, help Alaskans be successful. And it's just, at least having a pandemic didn't teach me that Alaskans would be there for each other, but it sure showed me that we will be. And that's pretty inspiring considering everything in the world today.
I want to kind of just piggyback off of what Jason said just a couple minutes ago. We're down to about 5 minutes. I just want to say, first of all, thank you, all of you guys, for joining us. It's been amazing having you here. I want to get in another question really quickly. This one comes from Todd. It says, what is your view of the near-term M&A market, mergers and acquisitions? Will the panelists be looking at acquisitions in distressed sectors like hospitality or expansion in government services? So let's pose that to McHugh first.
Sure. Thank you very much, Charles. And yeah, we're definitely looking at that. As we saw the pandemic impact our current business and the climate and we watched certain industries soar. We automatically looked at our diversity and said, where do we need to deploy resources and expand to capture this for the future? You know, our workplace has changed. There's a lot of remote work and it's proven successful, but there's new opportunities that we can get into. And we all know many of us were here in the 1980s when there was a housing crash and we saw real estate markets drop, and we hear the stories of people who were successful investing and taking advantage of that opportunity. Well, we don't wish any ill will on anyone's business or any misfortune, but we do want to make sure that we are responsible for our shareholders to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. So we're preparing to do that, and we're analyzing the market locally and you know, just outside of Alaska as well, so we can pounce on any opportunities to continue to increase our benefit distribution to shareholders.
Richard, from ASRC's perspective, are you guys looking at doing any new mergers and acquisitions in 2021?
I think the pace of our acquisition is unchanged by the pandemic, and instead is more related to the available capital that we have and the opportunities that present themselves around the country. But it's because of that acquisition that we're still able to give back and grow, and so we're not giving any special attention to pandemic themed business opportunities. No.
Okay. Michelle?
Yeah, I would have to agree with those who spoke before me. Acquisitions is just a part of our diversification effort, if you will. So we're constantly looking at opportunities both here in Alaska as well as outside of Alaska. And you know, ultimately it comes down to where the board wants to go and what the board wants to do, and based on, you know, where we believe that we would do well. So yes, I would say nothing's off the table.
That's outstanding. Well, we're coming to a close with the time we have for you guys, because I know you have work to get back to, and obviously we need to let McHugh get back outside in the sunshine. With 30 minutes of actual sunshine in Juneau annually, he's really got to take advantage of this. So a huge thank you to McHugh, James, Michelle, and Richard for joining us in this first Q&A panel. I hope it's not our last. This was very inspiring for me to see you guys all here in one place and answering these questions. So, and also a big thank you to everybody in the chat who provided questions for our panelists today and for attending today. So we had a great turnout, and we really appreciate everybody staying in the safety and comfort of their home or office and tuning in virtually with us. So thank you all very, very much for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to Charles for any thank yous that you might have.
Yeah, just once again, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to do the panel, and for everybody that's attending, I hope that everybody enjoyed the 49ers presentation. Hope to see you again next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Yeah, thank you for having us.